Yes, yes. And again, thank you for helping me finance this. I appreciate it. So I'll just follow the installment plan and we'll get it paid down. Thanks. You too, Geico. Bye bye. By the way, did you see the fights? No. Oh, okay. Bye bye. Welcome back to MMA Al Dente. I am the guy who picked Jack Della Maddalena to defeat Islam Makhachev. And this one really left a sour taste in my mouth. I feel like a jerk off every week for something or another, but this week I feel like Captain Jerk Off. I picked Hamzat Chimaev to defeat DDP, but I imagine if you pick DDP in that fight, you probably feel about the same way that I do now, having picked Jack to win this fight. I think I said some shit about, like, did you see the Poirier fight? What's going to happen when Jack's in that spot? And Jack's getting his boxing going. Well, we found out, and Islam returned him to the mat. Great fucking event altogether, even if it ended on a bit of a slow note. But yeah, let's recap UFC 322. Islam Makhachev is, I think he's the pound for pound greatest. He's certainly one of them. And here he just was way too much for Jack, who was way too much for Bilal. Islam looks like the best welterweight in the world. I know he's just getting going. And yeah, I saw the Michael Morales Sean Brady fight. I was wrong about that one as well. I think Islam's got a lot of tough tests, but he looked fucking beastly as a welterweight. Really fast on the feet. I thought he was way too much for Jack just with his kicking game. I mean, Islam's really come a long way. And I knew he'd have a speed advantage, but I thought that would dissipate over time, but he kept it up the whole fight whenever he needed to. And of course, whenever he needed to, he was also ripping Jack to the mat. Credit to Jack Della Maddalena for losing his first fight by decision. He's had some close fights anyway, but here he survived Islam Makhachev with 5 rounds of domination. That's not an easy thing to do, and my estimation of his grappling defense has gone up. But my estimation of his wrestling defense has gone down. I mean, he's had mixed results. The Basel Hafez fight, the Gilbert Burns fight, he's definitely proven to have been taken downable in the past. But Islam Makhachev, despite being Islam Makhachev and a beastly wrestler grappler, he still had a very easy time with Jack Della Maddalena, an easier time than he has had with anybody really as of late, aside from, Hanato Moicano, who he ended up submitting in 1 round. But yeah, here he wasn't able to submit Jack, but never came close to losing a round. He ate a few combinations on the feet maybe throughout the fight, but in general, he was casually winning this fight. He was strolling through this fight, and Jack had nothing for him. Each round got a little easier, and Islam Makhachev kept working. He wasn't able to get too many tight submission attempts on Jack. He kept working for it, but Jack had no offense for him. There was nothing to really force Islam to even fatigue or anything like that. Islam was comfortable this whole fight. So that's about as good as you can look in a title victory, aside from maybe smoking someone in 1 round. But he does separate himself from the champion in a big way, kind of like Hamzat Chimaev did against DDP, where, under whatever circumstances Jack or DDP would earn a rematch, it's not going to be promotable just because it was so one-sided, this fight, and also not too thrilling. Let's be honest. But yeah, credit to Jack for being able to survive. I think he looked really fucking tough down there, tough to submit. That he was in some tough spots. He kept fighting through them, protecting his neck, shrimping out, half guard, reclaiming guard. But he still had no offense in 25 minutes here. And for Islam, like I said, he looks like the king. I mean, obviously, he had the potential to be the greatest welterweight anyway, smoking everybody at lightweight. But yeah, here he goes through Jack with ease. And I think he's going to be a problem for anybody. The Michael Morales, Carlos Prateses, Kamaru Usman, who theoretically could be a tough matchup for him, being a bigger, stronger wrestler, grappler. But I think Islam Makhachev can handle himself anywhere against anyone. And yeah, he's sitting really pretty right here. Valentina, speaking of which, she's sitting real pretty. She's prettier. She beat Weili Zhang all even more comfortably than Islam beat Jack, or about as comfortably. It was just domination from Valentina Shevchenko. Weili Zhang landed a few strikes early on, had a bit of a speed advantage. Valentina slowed her down with a few counters pretty quickly and then ripped her to the mat pretty quickly. And I think she ripped her to the mat in every round, but Weili just had nothing for her. Valentina was way too strong. She was winning it with wrestling, but also once they were on the ground, she was cutting through that guard, secured the crucifix. She was advancing on Weili and really bullying her. And on the feet, I thought Valentina, like I said, maybe had a little trouble for a minute or two and then took over. Timed her with beautiful shots, some risky shit, spinning shit early. And overall, I think the most effective moments from her came with body shots, slammed some kicks and punches into Weili's body and had her retreating. Valentina didn't get any big moment here with the finish or any major 10-8 rounds or whatever, but this was a reminder that she's the queen. She is the queen, and Weili Zhang, who's as good as it gets outside of Valentina, was stepped over in a big way here. I mean, Weili Zhang, kind of like Jack and Duplessis, didn't have much here at all for Valentina. She got next leveled. So really tough loss for Weili, but of course it's very forgivable. She goes back down to straw weight, and it's still the sky's the limit. But at flyweight, she's going to run into a wall there in Valentina Shevchenko, at least until Valentina falls off a cliff, which, by the way, she's no spring chicken, but with the way she's looked as of late, I mean, coming out of that Grasso series, which she did look better and better with each performance there, but it looked with the beginning of the Grasso series, with her getting submitted and roughed up a little bit there, it looked like this could have been the beginning of the end for Valentina, but instead it looks like a distant hiccup. And here she is back kicking ass, and she just got a major victory. Fucking major. The win she had over Joanna Jędrzejczyk years ago was kind of like a similar fight, and that was a major win, but it didn't have as high of a profile as this fight did. This felt more like a super fight, and Valentina showed it wasn't much of a fight. So great win for her, tough loss for Weili, but very forgivable. Michael Morales went through Sean Brady with ease, 3 minutes and 30 seconds. Sean was just too small. I mean, he is Frankie Edgar, and Frankie Edgar ran into fucking a monster here in Michael Morales. Michael Morales was not an easy guy to take down. He's not an easy guy to get inside on in the first place, even with your strikes, let alone your grappling. And Sean Brady was on the outside, biding his time, trying to figure him out. And Morales just stepped on him. Stepped on him pretty quickly, hit him with some big shots, nice uppercuts, but I think a big overhand right did it. And yeah, he's got a really high ceiling, Michael Morales. I don't know who Islam's fighting next. Might be Kamaru Usman, to be honest. But I hope it's Michael Morales. He's the most exciting fight for me. He's young. He's really young, but he's really dangerous, really big. And he's been tested in plenty of different ways, and he's passed these tests. And here against Sean Brady wasn't much of a test. He next leveled him, and I want to see this guy fight for the title. And for Sean Brady, this was a different kind of loss than his loss to Bilal, which I attribute more to cardio and different things. This was just him running into a physical wall, round one shit. But it is a reminder of what he's up against. Typically, he's able to go through guys in a physical fight, get on top of them, drag them into deep waters, and strangle them. And I still think that could have happened here if he was able to get the takedowns. But here he wasn't able to get the takedowns, and he was fighting a man who was 3 times his size. And Michael Morales beat him down pretty quickly. So it can really go wrong for Sean Brady when it's going wrong, and here it went really wrong. Carlos Prates knocked out Leon Edwards. I thought Leon fought really well in round one. Uh, Timed some nice strikes and then tripped him up into a clinch and took his back and had some really good moments, slowing down Carlos Prates and showing Leon can mix in grappling offensively. But it wasn't able to go through him. And in round two on the feet, Carlos Prates was still dangerous as all fuck. And Leon Edwards, who looks increasingly older with each fight, and of course, the hairline doesn't help. But here, he got hit with a straight left hand, I believe, and it was right on the button, right on the chin, right through the guard. There was only enough room for one fist, and Carlos Prates put his fist right in there, and it just he one punched Leon, even though, whatever. But the one punch took him out. And yeah, it was a really different loss for Leon Edwards. We've seen him hurt, but never finished, never knocked out. And here, Carlos Prates, who's the most dangerous welterweight, I'd say that even above Michael Morales. Carlos Prates went through him for the first time, went through his chin for the first time in a big way. Tough loss for Leon Edwards. I mean, a very pivotal loss, I think, and did kind of suck. Not that I'm a Leon Edwards fan in particular. I don't hate the guy, but he did kind of win everybody over one night when he knocked out Kamaru Usman. So there's a part of me that's like, this sucks. But the other part of me is excited for Carlos Prates because he's a fucking monster, and I love when monsters climb the ladder. He I don't know who's more impressive between him or Michael Morales, but Carlos Prates, I feel like he's got a higher profile, even though he's got the one more obvious setback to Ian Gary. Still a very close fight. But Carlos Prates, he's exciting a title challenger as Michael Morales. Just for me, I'd probably go with Morales because I think he's got more to offer wrestling wise for Islam. And then in the first fight of the main card, Benoit Saint-Denis knocked out Beneil Dariush in 16 seconds. That's what that was. Ugh, that was tough. I love Beneil Dariush. I thought he would lose this fight. I thought he'd get finished, but not with one punch like that. Beneil actually hit him with a punch or whatever, got him to slip, whatever the fuck happened, and then just got hit. He slung that big left hand over the top, and that was it. It reminded me of Cerrone when he fought Justin Gaethje, even though that was more of a sustained beating. That was, I think, the end of round one. But I saw his lack of durability in that fight, throughout that fight, and certainly in the end, getting clipped with a similar type of shot and going down. And Beneil Dariush, he went down. It was a really rough loss for him. Not that he hasn't lost like this before, going back to Alex Hernandez. I almost said Anthony. But Beneil Dariush, now he's older, grayer, and a loss like this means a lot more, unfortunately. So really tough for him. But for Benoit Saint-Denis, this is an incredible victory. Even if I just kind of eulogized Beneil Dariush and talked like he didn't belong in there with his gray hair, Saint-Denis still knocked him out in 16 seconds, and he still went through Mauricio Rufy, and he's got a really high ceiling. He's had some tough losses. I still think he was going to turn things around against Renato Moicano. I was betting on him before the fight was stopped. But yeah, right now he's got a ton of momentum, and I hope his left hand is okay, and we can see him fight again soon, really soon. Benoit Saint-Denis is a fucking monster, and this was an excellent victory. The main event of the prelims, Bo Nickel knocked out Rodolfo Vieira. I thought Bo looked really good in this fight. I can't say he was tested too much. It would have been nice to see him have to dig deep, but he still fought deep and got a beautiful round three knockout. Rodolfo Vieira, I know he's still the grappler in everyone's minds, including mine, but he'd never been knocked out, and Bo Nickel closed the show in a big way, where I think he might have caught some shit if he didn't close the show. Not that he would have caught shit, but no one would be praising him, that's for sure. Because without the finish, this would have been a similar type of fight to the Paul Craig fight, even though Paul Craig tested him more than Rodolfo Vieira did. But Bo Nickel was comfortably fighting on the outside, being twice the athlete Adolfo Vieira was, meaning he's twice as fast, but also twice as powerful and strong. And I thought he was never behind in this fight, just in cruise control the whole way. And whereas Chris Curtis and whoever else weren't able to close the show on Vieira, Bo Nickel shut his lights out in round 3. Again, it may not be the most competitive fight, but a round 3 finish is still a great look, and this is in general a great bounce back win for Bo Nickel. The sky's still the limit with him, but there's still doubt, so hopefully he's got some careful matchmaking moving forward. RoboCop beat Roman Kopylov. I thought this was pretty comfortable. Roman Kopylov was coming alive a little more in the end, I think. But RoboCop kept his chin safe, first of all, which is his biggest liability. And then when it's MMA time, he was just a little too much for Kopylov. I picked him to win by submission, I think. And he did go for some nice subs and some scrambles early on, lacing up legs and shit. But in general, he was just too much of an MMA guy for Roman Kopylov. His hands, I mean, the guy hits like fucking Mike Tyson, and his grappling altogether. And I thought he clearly outpointed Roman. Roman faced a really dangerous guy and didn't go down, and he was still scratching and clawing in round 3, but he needed to force more of a fight in the end. I think he needed to put his own chin on the line to test the chin of RoboCop, especially when he felt he was down on the cards. But great win for RoboCop. He's got a lot of momentum despite the loss last year to Jared Cannonier. And yeah, he's kicking ass. Erin Blanchfield went through Tracy Cortez with a submission at the end of round 2. Really good win for Erin. Erin is not the fastest starter, but she builds and builds, and she's a grappling monster. And that was pretty much the story of this fight. Tracy, I thought, was a lot faster than Erin on the feet. I thought her boxing was a lot sharper in particular. And I thought she was leading the dance and winning the round. But Erin stayed the course, slowed her down with her pressure, slowed her down with her grappling. And in the end of round 2, I think Tracy felt a little too confident in her own grappling and wrestling and submission defense and all that horse shit. And she left her neck there, and Erin Blanchfield pounced on it. A great win for Erin Blanchfield and a tough loss for Tracy. This is actually the second submission loss for Tracy, but I don't think many girls will be submitting her in the future. I imagine this will be the last submission loss for her, unless it's just her thing, like a Juliana Pena, where she's a little more submittable. But Erin Blanchfield, she's a monster. She's got that one loss to Manon Fior last year. Manon Fior, look at what she's done lately. That's not a bad loss at all. And every win Erin Blanchfield has gotten has meant a ton. And this one meant a ton. Maybe not as much as her Rose Namajunas win, but it's still a big win, and she got it in a big way with a submission win. So awesome for Erin Blanchfield. Ethan Ewing stepped up on short notice and became one of my favorite fighters. He's definitely one of my favorite guys to make his UFC debut as of late. This guy, one of my favorite featherweights. He really took it to Malcolm Wellmaker. Oh, no, yeah, he's a bantamweight. That's what he is. But he took him to Malcolm Wellmaker. I thought Malcolm would knock him out with that big hook that he landed in round 1, and he did land it. He didn't knock him out. Ethan Ewing got in his face, put pressure and combinations, numbers on him the whole fight, and just out MMA'd Malcolm Wellmaker, reduced him to a guy slinging hooks. And that's still a big weapon for him, and he's gotten great results already, but it wasn't enough. And Ethan Ewing, on short notice, I'm aware he fought a week ago, so it's not like he was stepping off the couch. But he didn't know about this fight 3 days ago. And here he steps in and takes out one of the biggest prospects in the UFC. Maybe not anymore, let's be honest. But cut an excellent promo afterwards, Ethan Ewing. This guy, he's on my list. I like this guy. I think he's got a ton of fucking traits. I think a ton of them were on display in this fight. He's got nothing but forgivable losses. And yeah, he was really comfortable, the much more comfortable MMA fighter in there. And he out MMA'd Malcolm Wellmaker. Can't wait to see this guy fight again. Really, that was awesome. He's got some Spencer Fisher shit going on. He's just a fucking fighter, that dude. Kyle Dawkins beat Gerald Mearshart. Oh, let me say for Malcolm Wellmaker, he's gotta go back to the drawing board. I know he retired from a civilian life as a pipe fitter, and he's still gonna make it in the UFC. He's already made it, and he's got an incredible highlight reel. But when his power fails him, he's got to have more than that. He's dug deep, and he's even used grappling, and he's mixed things up in the past. But here he looked out of his element, and he looked out of options. I mean, he's always got the great equalizer. But if you're fighting a guy with an iron chin, you need more. You need more to fall back on. So he's got to get back to the drawing board and learn how to win that kind of fight. Kyle Dawkins went through Mearshart with ease. All right, Dawkins, he never knocked anybody out until a year ago. Now he's got 2 consecutive knockouts and good ones, especially that win over Michel Pereira. That's his greatest win by far. And now he's knocked down and subbed Gerald Mearshart. Mearshart, he's a very submittable guy on paper, but inside the UFC octagon, only a few have gotten it done, but Kyle Dawkins gets it done here. I want to praise Dawkins, but I've got to talk about Gerald Mearshart. He's been one of my favorite fighters, my favorite middleweight in the last however many years, but he's past it. He's done, and he's got to retire. He wasn't concussed, knocked out, knocked unconscious, certainly, with a lot of these shots he's taken as of late in his last few fights. But he's gotten knocked around, shelled up. He's hurt a little too easily, and it's not a good look. And here he was hurt very quickly and very easily against Dawkins, and then Dawkins closed the show on him with a sub. Mearshart, he's got so much experience, just an incredible MMA career altogether, and an incredible long UFC career on its own, fighting at the highest of levels. But here, he's dipped a few levels, and with him getting rocked, it's the beginning of the end. Hopefully, it's the end of the end, to be honest. But yeah, Gerald Mearshart's got to think things through. Millions. I'll never see $1 million in my life. But Pat Sabatini went through Chepe pretty easily. I thought Chepe was defending very well early on, maybe at his best round in round 1. I guess he did when he slung that head kick and split Pat Sabatini open at the end of round 1. That was by far his best moment. But Pat Sabatini had every other moment. It may not have been as wild as their first fight, and that's a good thing for Pat. But Pat's grappling has gotten way too strong where he didn't need to have a wild fight here. Yeah, the submission attempts were all pretty basic, and they were all done from a place of great control. And Chepe Mariscal looked tough as all fuck to get out of there. He was in a really tough spot with that monstrous grappler. Pat Sabatini is a grappling wrestling monster. He's actually a grappler first and foremost. Let me fucking shut this shit off. But he still, Chepe had nothing for Pat Sabatini. Pat Sabatini was in control throughout this whole fight. The fight only got easier as it went on. And Pat Sabatini, I think he usually closes a show in a fight where he's that dominant. But he's fighting another grappling monster in Chepe Mariscal, who's going to be really tough to get out of there. Has never been submitted. But doesn't make this an excellent win for Pat Sabatini, even though it's in the 4th fight of the night. This was just a stacked card. But Chepe had 5 wins or whatever in the UFC, a 5-0 record. This win definitely means something, and certainly it does because he avenged a loss. But yeah, Pat Sabatini, a guy who's looked a little shaky and given everybody, especially myself, doubt. He's still got a ton of potential. This guy can go through anybody on the ground. Diego Lopez, whoever's beating him, he can go through anybody on the ground. And yeah, I can't wait to see him fight again. And Fatima Klein beat Angela Hill by decision. Speaking of fighters, I can't wait to see fight again. Fatima Klein is a monster. She kicks ass. She was really roughing up Angela Hill. Angela's got an incredible chin on her, standing up to Amanda Lemos and Jessica Andrade in that fucking awesome fight they had. But here, she was a little older, and I was worried for the first time that she'd get knocked out against Fatima Klein. Fatima Klein was beating her up. Much better at range, twice as quick, twice as powerful, twice as sharp. Angela Hill didn't really have an advantage anywhere in this fight. Maybe in the clinch, which I don't think so, but that was probably her best path to victory, and she wasn't able to dictate things. Fatima Klein controlled things everywhere, and she seemed disappointed in herself that she wasn't able to get a finish, but clearly she's got a really high opinion of her own skills. Not that I'm saying she shouldn't. She's fucking awesome. I have a high opinion of her skills. But I think Angela Hill is really, really tough to get out of there. She's a girl where if you're beating her, 99% of the time it's by decision these days. And a great decision win for Fatima Klein. This is a girl that I wouldn't be surprised if she's the champion within a year. Well, I don't know. Maybe that would surprise me. Maybe within 2 years. But it wouldn't surprise me if she doesn't lose another fight and becomes champion. Or if she wins and loses and has a draw and then becomes champion or whatever. She's fucking awesome. And she's got skills in every direction, traits in every direction. And the upside is there with her. Her one loss is incredibly forgivable. Yeah, Fatima Klein, she's definitely championship material. Beisinger Sursakayev beat Eric McConico. This was a nice third-round knockout. Great win for Sursakayev. He is definitely not Chimaev, but he's a guy who's answered every question, and he's passed a lot of serious tests, and this was one of them. McConico, I thought, was really fighting well in this fight. In fact, I was pleased to have put some money on him. Thought he was fighting very hard for my money. But Sursakayev, who was not having an easy fight, stayed the course. I thought his striking got better and better as McConico was slowing down. And in round 3, he showed he still had that danger there. McConico had slowed down enough, and Sursakayev, without anything really flashy, I think it was just like a 1-2 or whatever, but put it right on the button and floored him dead. Huge win for Sursakayev, huge moment for him. And yeah, he showcases his traits with a third-round victory. He showcased traits against Eric Nolan, against the guy Subnopsky or whatever. Anytime this guy's needed to dig deep, he's dug deep. And this is another example of that. Another strong round 3 for Sursakayev. It's only been a few of them, but he's always been there. And for McConico, this may be it for him, his ceiling or whatever. He got that win over Cody Brundage, but he's a guy who's been roughed up. His losses, the majority of them are by knockout, and this was a rough knockout loss, rougher than his last one. So yeah, tough loss for him, and a tough physical and health-related setback. And Mateus Camilo beat Slavakos. I thought this was a really close fight, but I did favor Camilo. I thought in general his grappling was the difference, but I still had hopes Slava could win on the scorecards, even though I wasn't invested in that. But I picked him to win, and I thought Slavakos was the better man on the feet, but only by a small margin. Slava wasn't really able to take it to him. I thought Camilo looked like he was fatiguing and on his way to fatigue in the middle of the fight, but I thought he bounced back and still looked good down the stretch, even on the feet, on the retreat, not letting Slavakos turn into Slavakos and overwhelm him. Slava was going for it, landing good body shots, which I think was the right thing to do. Slava knows to do that anyway. But yeah, for Camilo's a guy who's let fatigue cost him a few times by submission. And here, it did not cost him, and he did enough with his grappling to secure a victory. So great win for this dude. Slava Claus may not be the most impressive name on anyone's resume, but he's a much tougher fight than people give him credit for. And Camilo, who's coming off of a collapse of a loss, he gets his first UFC victory here, and he does so by decision. And he doesn't, again, fall apart. All right, that's the event, UFC 322. This was a pretty shitty wrap up. And stay tuned for my videos on UFC Fight Night, Sarukian versus Hooker, coming up very fucking soon.